Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Last month, this serum for like hundreds of dollars came in Boxycharm, and it's basically 3 ingredients and they're all silicones, but the Kardashians claim that it's an amazing product, and anyway, a bunch of you were in my comment section complaining about it, like I was, but then a bunch of you were also saying, but why don't you just try it out? So today, I'm going to be doing this and a full face of first impressions, trying a bunch of new products, but really seeing like the main purpose of this video is this really expensive Peony Beverly Hills Flawless Serum that came in this month's Boxycharm worth it or not? Because honestly, I'm not so sure. If that's something you're into, make sure to keep on watching and don't forget to subscribe because I upload every other day and that'll be the best way to stay up to date on all the fun stuff I'm posting. So if you want to jump into whatever this is going to be with me, stay tuned. Alright, so jumping right in, we're going to start with the serum because this is, I just ripped the box. This was a product that a lot of you were very skeptical on, and the fact that it is a cheap plastic bottle with a little gold sticker on it definitely didn't make it feel like it was, I think, $195. But we're going to try it. Apply this during the evening or as directed by the physician, but it's a primer, it's dimethicone, it's silicone, so I don't really understand why it would be an evening product, but we're going to try it out. Definitely cheap packaging, not even going to pretend. There we go. It is a gel consistency, and we're going to see how it feels. So it has little to no scent to it. Definitely feels very hydrating, but again, that's not from any hydrating ingredients. That's from silicones and dimethicone. So I feel like as I rub this on my face, it kind of feels like lubricant. And I know that's kind of gross. Like, I'm pretty sure they put silicone lubricant and claimed that it was a serum. So it does leave like a silky silicone feel all over my hands. It definitely gave some really nice glow and hydration, which is why I could see people really liking it, but when you look at the ingredients, it doesn't really do anything. So let's put foundation on top and see how that goes. I know I am totally behind on the trend, but I did finally get my hands on the Ilia Super Serum Skin Tint and SPF 40. So we're going to try this today. Directions don't really specify sponge or brush, so I have both, and we're going to try it out. This is in the shade 6.5. which I'm never that deep, so I'm really hoping this works out. Don't forget, try not to touch the droppers to your face, because that's how you contaminate. Starting with a brush, I'm just going to stipple that around the face. Right off the bat, not as dark as I thought. 6.5 is like the medium of their color, but it is shearing out. Like, I don't know if you can see, it's definitely perfecting. And I'm getting a little bit of coverage, but it is definitely more of like a your skin but better. Like, you see how I still have a lot of redness on this side, but the side that I put it on first is a little bit less red. More. Trying desperately not to drip this all over myself, because every time I use a foundation in a dropper, I end up wearing it. And because I have to give credit where credit is due, this is the NYX Professional Makeup 03. It's a foundation brush. I've been watching Jackie Aina talk about this brush for literally years, and I've never given it a try. So I recently picked it up, and this is my first time using it, and I do really like it. Now, you know, I do like applying my base product with a brush, but I always take a sponge just to finish it out, and I will be doing that today. It's definitely quite glowy, but I'm not upset about the coverage. So I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to take a tiny bit more on the sponge just to see if that does anything differently, because there are some areas where I feel like I want a little more coverage, and I don't think the brush is giving it to me. Really just the center of the face. So it's definitely very glowy. It is definitely hydrating. And just looking at it closely, I do see a little bit of my redness poking through. I would not even call this a medium coverage. I would call this a light coverage. But this is the thing that I hate that I'm about to say this, but The pores on my nose are much less pronounced than they normally are. So for a foundation, primer, or serum, whatever you want to call this, loaded with silicone, definitely going to smooth everything over. And I think once I layer a little bit of powder on top of that, it'll definitely be even more of that smoothed, perfected look. Now, I don't have a First Impressions concealer or powder, so I'm going to do a little bit of a color correct since I am going so lightweight with the Dragon Beauty Lavender Color Corrector for the yellowing of my under eyes, the Banana Lowlighter from Rodial, just to give myself a little bit of brightness, and then I'm going to grab my Givenchy Rose Setting Powder and just set everything down, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm going to do brows and eyes next before we go into the rest of the complexion, but I definitely think the primer, serum, whatever it is, it really claims to be a serum. It's a silicone primer. And just looking at it, like, it's not a bad product, but it's definitely not $195 worth of product. And it's also, like, not skincare. It is definitely a makeup primer. So it is causing a little bit of separation on my nose. So I am going to grab, like, a full coverage foundation powder, take that on the tip of my sponge, and really just lock my nose in because I don't want that separation, and I don't think this is going to do it for me. All right, starting with eyes, this is from the British Museum X Zisa. This is the Alice in Wonderland palette. I don't know if you can see, but in the center there, it does have glitter moving around. So packaging is already a 10 out of 10. I've used a few palettes from them in the past. They were the Egyptian collection, and they were beautiful. And they are some of the most gorgeous eyeshadow palettes ever. So I'm going to remove the protective layer, and we're going to do some sort of cute eye look with this today. I never use the freebie brushes just because I don't like them, so I'm not going to today. I'm going to grab a packer brush, and the blues look really pretty, but I kind of want to go for something softer today. Let's go intense, why not? I'm going to start by taking this neutral shade down here, and I am going to just gently map out the crease. This isn't going to put down a lot of color, but it is just going to give us a soft transition area so that our blending will be a little bit easier later. And I know a lot of people do their brows then their eyeshadow. I personally don't like doing that too often because lately I've noticed I get a lot of powder in my brows, so I will be doing my brows at the end. Next, I'm going to go into the dark brown over here, and this is basically going to be the color we're going to use for like 90% of everything else. So I'm going to start by dusting that pretty low under the crease, just to start slowly building up this definition. And with these powders, you don't want to go in and start buffing immediately. I'm taking a tiny bit at a time, and I'm almost like stamping it on, and then once it's stamped, then I'm blending. And because we're building it up slowly, it shouldn't get muddy at all because we're really taking the time to build it up. Jumping back to that first shade, we're just going to softly blend the edges up. I don't want this to be like a super grungy smoky eye because I am planning on going in with a pretty bold red lip today. And I want it to be like pretty but effortless. And as you can see so far with all that blending, there is no fallout. Next, on that same brush, I'm going to grab the orange shade up here. This is something, when you see how cool toned this eye is, whenever I go in with a cool tone, I like taking a tiny bit of either a warm brown, or in this case an orange, and just taking a tiny bit above the crease. And then once it's on there, I'm going to go back into that first light shade and just blend it out. That tiny bit of orange is really going to pull some warmth into the eye so that it doesn't wash me out. I'm like cool toned and on the medium light side, so it's really easy for eyeshadow to wash me out, especially if I go in with a red lip. So having that tiny bit of orange to blend out the brown, to give us some warmth on the eyes, it'll allow that red lip to really balance. Now here's the part where I'm kind of lost because I want to go in with the blues, but that gold is really calling to me, and I feel like gold and red for the holiday, it's just so appropriate. So I'm going to go gold. I'm going to load that gold shade up on a flat packer brush. And as always, I am going to give it a mist with some setting spray because, in my opinion, every eyeshadow does better with setting spray. So the color is beautiful, but I am getting a little bit of fallout, which is instantly blending into the cheeks. So now I have little gold flecks. So even though this is a formula I've used before, I don't remember their shadows having this much fallout. So I'm going to do this exact same thing on this eye and throw on some mascara because I don't have a new mascara to use and clean this up, and I'll be right back. All right, I am back. The eyes are done and the palette's beautiful. Definitely got a little more fallout than I would have liked, but not the end of the world. Time to do the brows. I have the Brow Harmony Shape and Fill Duo. This is from Rare Beauty, and it is in the shade Light Brown. It's got a little brush in it, and I'm probably gonna, no, I'm not gonna use the brush. I'm gonna use a brush and spoolie I know I like. I'm gonna grab, it's a Duo Brow Powder. I'm gonna be honest, when I opened it, one of the powders fell out, but it was in a whole thing, so I pressed it back in. So I'm gonna start with the darker of the two colors. And I'm going to take that and just clean up the top of my arch and the tail of the brow. I am going to keep it to the tail side, and we're going to use the lighter side to blend the front of the brow. If you're using brow powders or pomades or pencils, the biggest thing that makes your eyebrow look fake is when you go either one color the entire way or when it's too dark, too close to the center. You'll notice in my natural brow, the one I haven't touched yet, it's lighter up here. Part of it is because there's less hair there, but when you're filling it in, you want to mimic that same thing. So I'm going to take the powder, really concentrate it during the tail, and then going into the lighter color. And I'm not going to make flicks. I'm actually going to take the brush sideways, and I'm going to kind of comb that over and blend that in, using less and less product as I get closer to the head of the brow. And then once that's in, I'm actually going to kind of comb it out and comb it through. And look at the difference from a brow I haven't done to a very natural powder brow. I really like this brow powder. And because I like my brows not to go anywhere, I'm going to take a tiny bit of brow gel and just set that down so that nothing moves anywhere. All right, moving on to the cheeks, because I haven't done that yet. We're going to do contour, bronzer, and blush. Picked up the Made by Mitchell liquid blushers. I got them in the contour shades and the blush shades, and I actually purchased these myself. It was like 30 bucks each because the kits were so discounted. So I'm going to grab one shade from each, and we'll try those out. For the contour and bronzer, I'm going to use the shade Toned Up, and I'm actually going to do the technique that has been all over TikTok, where you suck in your cheek and find in where your cheek is at its thinnest, where if you like poked in, you would feel your teeth, and then just gently diffuse that. I don't love that technique because I feel like it's dragging the face down. I'm going to even it out when I do the other side, but where I actually like to do it is just a little bit higher. And I like to take that on the temple as well. And because why not, I'm going to take a tiny bit down the nose. And now that it's half blended, I'm going to switch to a sponge. Once I'm done with all the cream products, I will blend it all together a little bit more with powder. But I am going to grab the Shy Boy blush. This is going to be more of like a rosy, corally blush tone. And I'm going to apply that on top of the cheek, just like that. And for this, I'm not even going to mess with the brush. I'm just going to use the butt of the sponge. So that is definitely more pigmented than I expected. I was expecting it to be super soft and super effortless because most cream blushes are. But this is actually going to be a good opportunity for me to show you how I'm going to tone this down because that is definitely a little crazy. All right, I did the same thing on the other side because I put on too much on one and I wanted it to be even. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a tinted setting powder. This is the HD setting powder in the shade 2. This is from Makeup Forever. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take a fluffy brush and I am just going to set that over the cheek. This is a technique called veiling, which just puts a thin layer of powder over your blush or your bronzer, and see how it instantly kind of makes it look like it's shining through the skin as opposed to sitting on top of it. This is going to help to soften that color and make it a little bit, I don't want to say less obnoxious, but definitely less bold. And once we have it slightly veiled, we're going to go into a powder foundation. The reason it's important that it's a powder foundation is it's going to be more coverage than your typical setting powder. And we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to take a bunch of that and we're going to stipple over the cheek. All right, and I'm happy with the amount of blush that's on now. If you still feel like it's too intense, grab a little bit of setting powder. I know I said powder, I meant spray. Take a little bit of setting spray, put it on top. Once you do that, grab your sponge, press over the cheek, and then when it's dry, go in with another thin layer of powder. And you can actually do that a few times until you really tone down the blush. Right now, I'm kind of happy with this is. It's a little blushier than I would normally go for, but again, we're doing gold eye holiday makeup, so it's appropriate, but it's really up to what you're comfortable with. I originally wasn't going to do highlighter because I expected the creams to be more luminous, but because I had to layer them in powder, I'm going to grab the Jason Wu blush palette in the shade 5, and I'm going to grab this shade right here, which is a really like soft illuminating tangerine color. And I'm going to put that over the top of the cheekbone. Yes, I understand the irony of removing blush just to put more on, but this is a very illuminating blush. So it's really just going to add a tiny bit of that coral tone, but it's going to add a little bit of that like glow to the high points of the cheeks, which is what I'm going for. And last thing I'm going to do is throw on a lip. And I normally don't do Kardashian Beauty. I don't find the products to be that great. But when I saw the Kim Kardashian KKW Beauty lipstick in the shade Cherry Pop on sale at Ulta for like $4.50, I figured for $4 I could be a trooper. So we're going to try that today. And that's the color with no lip liner. I'm seeing a tiny bit of feathering just at the very bottom corner of right here and here, but that's actually not bad. It's a little waxy, which means that it's not going to dry down too matte, which I think is good. And with the gold on the eye and the corally blush on the cheeks, honestly, it feels very holiday. And for the most important part, it's taken me like an hour and a half to film this, and I am still getting a little bit of separation on my foundation around my nose. So I think the primer's not going to work well with the skin tint. I am going to try it again with a different foundation, maybe a couple different foundations, if that's something you would all be interested in. But all things considered, for a bunch of products that I've never used before, I am really happy with how everything turned out today. As always, let me know your thoughts down below. I would love to hear them. What products would you try and which ones are an absolute pass for you? Let me know and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!